Oh my gosh. Hey everyone, we made it to 16 episodes. That's crazy. Welcome to the 16th episode of the Whatta podcast. I'm Matthew, your host. So, I made the last podcast episode December 30th, right? And I was like, oh, yes. Now I have 2 weeks where I can write things down and have it prepped and ready to go when we get to the next podcast, right? And I started that. And then the very next day happened, December 31st, New Year's Eve. Betty White passed away. Obviously, we are almost 2 weeks out from that, but I have to acknowledge it now because I couldn't before. And I think that's insane. I think that's crazy. She was 99, so it was old age. I assume it was old age. I've not heard a single thing saying otherwise. I just assume it was because she was 99 years old. She was almost 100. She was getting close. Her birthday is next week. It is next week, January 17th. So she was real close to hitting 100. And as cool as that would have been, she lived a very long and favored and varied life that I'm sure she enjoyed the time that she had, and I'm sure that the people around her enjoyed the time that she was here. And she didn't need to hit 100 to be remembered as someone great, because Betty White was always already remembered. I personally have never watched The Golden Girls, but I know The Golden Girls. I know that there are 4 of them. I know one of them is Betty White, and I'm pretty certain she was the last member of them still alive, since they were all old in the show. So, the legacy of that lived on with Betty White having continued to live on for so long. Because, when did that show end? I actually have no clue. 1992. The Golden Girls ran from 1985 to 1992. I've never seen that show. It's 40 years old now. It's over 40, technically, because it started in 85. No, I did my math wrong. It's a little over 30, not 40. I know how to count, I promise. But she lived a long life. She left behind a very long and extended legacy. The world loves her, and now she's off doing other things. And I think that's fantastic for her. You know? She's off in the sky, probably meeting up with the rest of her good friends from the Golden Girls. And I'm sorry to just willy womp you right afterwards to just follow it up by, and then as I was prepping to record this podcast, I got the little notification informing me about Bob Saget's passing at age 65, and I was like, what's going on? If you don't know, shame on you, but if you don't know, Bob Saget, he was better known for playing Danny Turner in Full House, which, great show. It's a great sitcom of the time. Obviously, there are going to be some things that don't hold up because it's an older sitcom, but it's a great show. You should check it out if you have never checked it out. And that one was real wild to my brain to read. Seeing as how they found him, they so far there's been no signs of foul play. There have been no signs of drugs or anything. It just seems to be that he's died. He was on tour at the moment, and he was down in Orlando. I'm from that state, and that was weird because I was leaving. I left that state, came up to where my college is, and all of a sudden, someone died, and I was like, oh no, did I do that? I know I didn't. But it was real weird. It was real weird nonetheless. So I hope they're both resting in peace. If you suddenly hear me talk about Full House in a more explicit consent? No, it's more explicit style, as in with more knowledge, it means I started watching Full House. Because I felt bad and wanted to watch Full House. Or The Golden Girls. Same thing there. Haven't watched either of those in a long time. I hold a deep fondness in my heart for Full House because I believe Nick at Night always used to play episodes of it. Like, when Nickelodeon would switch over to Nick at Night and it would just immediately start with Full House every time, all the time. And maybe you'd get the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And then if it was 3 a.m. and you woke up in a cold sweat, you got the George Lopez show. But they will both be missed. They were both cherished. I have words in my brain. They were both cherished members of not just the acting community, but of just history. Love them both. May they rest in peace. So I wanted to get that out of the way because that's a very sad portion of the topic to discuss at any point, at any facet, as it goes. But as I stated, I'm back on campus. I'm in college again. Excuse me. I didn't mean to burp. Attended my first class already. Have to get textbooks this semester. That hurts my soul every time. I'm like, oh, textbooks, you're so expensive. And teachers are every teacher that says you have to get a textbook, you never have to get a textbook. No, you don't. They're lying to you. Unless they intend to not teach you, you're not going to use that textbook. And if you do use that textbook, it's as a paperweight. It's a paperweight. That's what it becomes. I've got 2 textbooks staring back at me right now, and I have to go get 2 more. And it's funny, because only my psychology classes have asked for textbooks. Which isn't surprising, but still hurts me deeply, because of course. And I touched those 2 textbooks, which were for the same class. Rarely touched them. I passed that class. I think I passed it with an A. You know why? Because I did everything else. I did every other aspect of the class that was required for me to be able to understand what I was doing, and I didn't need the textbooks. Yeah, I'd go looking for a word, maybe, but I could also Google that word, and it would give me the same information. Textbooks are not necessary unless it's like a workbook, which is not a textbook, in my opinion, but some people call it a textbook still. If it's like, hey, do all your work in this book, and it has problems in it, and like portions of lesson, okay, sure, that's a more necessary book. It's very helpful. I had a math book like that for the last math class I had to take up here, and that was pretty solid. I learned how to do taxes. You know how insane that is to learn how to do taxes at 19 in college? I should have learned that 5 years ago. This should have been the first thing that the math classes taught me in high school. I don't need to know about how to calculate the side of a triangle. Tell me how to do taxes. That's an argument for another day. Oh, I am peaking my mic. I turned up the gain. I was informed that I was a little quiet. Some people were having trouble hearing me at times, so I turned up the gain on my mic. For those who don't know microphones, what that means is that when you turn up the gain, it makes it so that it can pick up sounds better, but in the process, you'll lose some quality to sound, which is why most people prefer for the gain to be turned down and have the person get real close to the mic, because then you get the crispiest audio without all the extra noise. Which, hey, I stand by that. As someone who really loves sound, that's a good way to go about it. But no one wants me to come and press my lips up against this mic in order to talk to them. No one likes that. They don't. So I sit back and I talk a little louder, but then I have to turn the gain up because, lo and behold, I'm not as loud as I'd like to believe I am. Oh, my nose. I don't know what's going on with my nose. I don't have a cold because I don't have any other signs of a cold, but my nose is stuffy. So who knows? I don't know. Just a stuffy nose. I have to go get tested for COVID, not because I have symptoms, although I don't even know what the symptoms are at this point, but because my college has said, hey, you need to go do that or else we won't let you go to classes. And I was like, oh, well, that's not nice. Guess I'll go do that. I apparently get a Starbucks gift card for it. It's $5. I was like, that can get me a half a drink. Will I go use it immediately? Probably. Most likely. Because why would I save that? At what point do I intend to make my way to a Starbucks to be like, this will be tasty? No. No. I have no intentions to do that. Never. But now that I've mentioned it, it seems a little funny. And no one can tell me otherwise. Because it is funny, okay? It's a funny thing. It's funny. Wow, we're at 10 minutes already? This has probably been the worst 10 minutes of your life. I came in, I punched you in the face and said, 2 people died. And then I walked away and said, and here's the weather. What's the weather? Cold. It's so cold out. It's ridiculous how cold it is. You know what hurt me? I read the weather this morning, right? It was like, you have a high of 48 and a low of 19. And I went, oh, cool. So what's the temperature right now? 18 degrees. Well, that's not a low of 19, is it? You are at 18. That's a low of 18. Right now, it's 30 degrees outside. That's insane. That's awful. I hate that. It's 30 degrees outside at 10 in the morning. 10 in the morning. Oh, my word. I am yawning. I have to crack my back. That's, you ever have to narrate your life because you're doing something where someone can't see what it is that you're doing, and you just have to accept that? You're like, whatever. Sure, I'll talk about it, I guess. It's ridiculous. Anywho. What's on my notes? That's on my notes. The Betty White portion was on my notes. Bob Saget was not on my notes. That was in my memory, because that was a very sad portion of my day. Did not know what to do. Did not know who I could go talk to about that, because either everyone my age doesn't know what Full House is, or those who do know what Full House is don't want to talk about it. I've seen one human being that I know, 2 at this point. I've seen 2 different human beings that I know talk about Bob Saget's passing, and then this morning I saw an actual human being from my college talk about it too, and I was like, oh, whoa, you know who Bob Saget is? And it's kind of sort of how life goes. You just go about and you're like, I don't think this person knows anything about this subject, and then suddenly you see that they know things about the subject, and you're like, well, sometimes it pays to be wrong, and other times you're just wrong. And, you just have to roll with it. You have to just run with it, and you have to accept it. And that's what happens. And am I hurting my hip sitting in this chair? I'm back in my wooden chair instead of my cool gaming chair that I keep sitting too high in because I'm an idiot. I always had to, I spent the past month leaning real close to the mic, right? Like leaning over, like hunching over. And it didn't occur to me that if I just lowered my chair, I could be the right height for my microphone, for where it was sitting on my desk, without hurting my back. But alas, I am stupid and didn't think about that. I was just like, I'll just hunch over it like this. It hurts a little bit, but I'll be okay. I can do it. I'll get through this. Like, no. No. Lower the seat. Lower the seat. Lower the seat like you're living in a house with a female. Lower the seat. That's all you've got to do. That's so funny to me. I didn't know that there were guys that didn't do that. They just leave it up. I always thought it was funny when you see that in like movies and shows. Have you ever noticed that? That's the sign of like a guy who's not used to women, is that they leave the seat up. But I also think that people forget the fact that if you take a guy who's been living on his own, or like maybe with like a male roommate for, let's say, like 4 or 5 years, right? And then suddenly put a girl into the mix, yeah, it's going to take him a bit of time to suddenly readjust to the idea of not leaving a toilet seat up. You know why? Because we pee standing. We pee standing up. Hey, sorry. Sorry, that's how our weird bodies developed, but we pee standing. And it makes less of a chance of us making a mess on the seat if we lift it and there's someone out there who doesn't understand the just batshit insanity that is peeing with a male member. But hey, sometimes, no matter how hard we stand there and aim and make sure that we're just aimed right at the center of the toilet, all of a sudden, something occurs where your stream of pee goes every which way. You could be standing there and there'll be two separate streams, both missing, and if you want to make one hit, the other one's still going to miss, and you just have to accept it that in one way, shape, or form, you're going to clean up pee. You're going to clean up pee. You know how wildly random that is? The amount of times that has happened is ridiculous. You don't get control over it. You don't know why it happened. You just know that all of a sudden, you're split streaming. You're split streaming. Sometimes you're triple streaming. Sometimes there's no stream. Sometimes it's just in there, and you're just like, well, what's happening here? And then it'll just come back and hit you in the chest, and you're like, well, how did that happen? What? And it's ridiculous. So it's not always a matter of, wow, this guy really has no aim. It's like, no. No, we've been betrayed by something we held sacred. But yeah, no, they'll eventually learn how to lift a seat and put it down. But if you spend 4 years only having to put it down when you need to sit, and for the most part, you're not sitting the same amount of times that you're standing there at the toilet, it makes sense that the seat's going to be up until they learn to be like, oh, well, my girlfriend, or like, oh, well, my wife, which, yes, I did give those two different voices, because I think if someone like, I live with my girlfriend, that's probably what they sound like. That's 100% what they sound like. But if they're like, I live with my wife, all of a sudden they have more authority, and you're like, yes, sir, I do respect your opinion, and I hope you have a good day. And you walk away, and you go, man, I wish I can be as cool as that guy. And you live your life. Eventually they'll learn. This has been a wallop. Cool. I have a story. I was in Walmart. It's nothing to do with peeing. Don't worry. I'm moving on from the peeing thing. That came out of nowhere, and that's the fun of the Whatta Thought podcast. Because sometimes you get my thought process. 70% of the time, you get it all the time. I was in Walmart. I was trying to get poster frames, right? I got my poster frames. I went home, set up my posters, and it fell right off the wall, and it broke the frame. So I had to return it. And another frame fell off the wall, not even like a week later. And there's one still standing. It is holding forth as the king of frames, and I'm like, good on you. But so I had to return the broken one, right? I'm standing in line, and I'm just waiting because it's taking forever because it's, New Year's Eve, I think. Because I think I went and got the frames after Christmas because I'd gotten posters. It's New Year's Eve, standing in line at Walmart, making my returns. And all of a sudden, someone passes by, and I hear them comment about the line. They're like, wow, look at the line for returns. And I was like, yeah, of course it's long. It's New Year's Eve. And I was thinking that to myself. And then I watched them go past. And I looked at their head. And I was like, what? They were wearing like a gaming headset as a Bluetooth mic. You know the gaming headsets where it's like, here's one singular like headphone, which is stupid because sometimes if you're gaming online and you need a headset, you're probably playing a game where you want sound in both ears. But they were wearing one of those and like mic to the mouth, and I couldn't tell you if they were even talking to someone on that phone call because they were walking with another person. And I was like, well, now hold on. What in the heck is going on here? You're walking with another person. You've got the headset connected to your head. You look like you should be playing Halo, and instead you're probably taking phone calls in the Walmart. And I was so lost. And then I got broken even more when all of a sudden I look over at someone standing in a line, and they're doing the same thing. It's a different headset. Like, it's a different type of headset. But they're using it for the same purpose, clearly, because it's obviously Bluetooth. and they're definitely using it to take calls. And I just want to know who's starting this trend, and I want to know how I can stop it. Because I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Hey, I think the guy with the AirPods in his ear is obnoxious, but at least it's an AirPod. You know? Those things are small. They're tiny. This is why we don't notice that they're wearing AirPods until they get too close and you realize they weren't talking to you. And you're like, oh, I was just practicing for when I see Steven. Ah, ha, ha. And then you run off into traffic. But all of a sudden, if you're wearing like a gaming headset on your head and being like, no, Bob, I told you, the budget is out of whack. Like, hey, I can't take you seriously. And I'm sure Bob wouldn't be able to take you seriously if he could see your face. If he could see you in your little tank top walking through the Walmart, headset on head, microphone to mouth, just looking like a fool. And I think that's so funny to me. What sparked that? Who do you think had the thought, right? Because clearly multiple people have. If I was able to see two people in the same Walmart in the same 30 to 40 minute time frame, that means that there's multitudes probably of people just walking around with these gaming headsets, using them as Bluetooth mics. And that's crazy. That's absolutely insane. I don't know what to do about it. I don't know how to feel about it. How do you feel about it as human beings? What would you think if you saw that and you walked into a Walmart? You were like, honey, look, that guy's playing Halo without a console, or a computer, or his phone. Maybe he's just crazy. Oh, that would be insane. That's absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. I watched some stand-up specials this weekend. Nothing new. I didn't watch anything new. I listened to a bunch of stand-up comedy in the Pandora John Mulaney station. I'm sure there's like just a stand-up station in general, but I have the John Mulaney one because the first time I listened to John Mulaney, I don't remember how it came up. No, I do remember. My brother showed him to me. He played like 1 or 2 because he was just letting stuff play. And I was like, this guy's funny. So then I put him on my Pandora maybe a decade ago. It feels like it at this point. And I was like, yep, cool. This guy's a funny guy. And then I watched his specials. And then I was showing my friend one of his specials the other night. And I forgot just how funny it is. It was New in Town. I'm gonna push him. If you haven't listened to that, if you haven't gone and listened to John Mulaney's New in Town, it's on Netflix. All of his recorded specials are on Netflix. New in Town, The Comeback Kid, Kid Gorgeous at Radio City, and then also John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch. Whatever was happening there. Still don't know what that one was about. It's real weird. Probably not gonna get anything of that sort again. It was like Mr. Rogers, but incorrect. And those are all real funny. I obviously New in Town is personally my favorite. I think it goes in order of its releases. I think New in Town is the funniest one. I think The Comeback Kid follows that up in funny. It's not as funny as New in Town, but it is what it is. And then there's Kid Gorgeous at Radio City, and it's got its funny moments, but it's mainly just him doing funny voices, and you're like, yeah, this was funny a year ago. And that's it. and that's kind of all you get from it. You're like, yeah. And I also watched Weirdo, Donald Glover's Weirdo. That's a real good one. Don't watch that with your parents. I couldn't even imagine looking my mother in the eye, and I'm a 20-year-old adult. I would not be able to do it. I'd be like, hey, Mom, I'll leave now. And that would be it. That would be it if I was trying to watch that with her. I'd be like, you can enjoy this. I'm going to go cry. Because you can't. It's a real good stand-up special, but it's not the one you want to watch with your mom. With your friends? Oh, yes. Yes. I was watching it with a friend. I watched both of those with my friend. It was Haley. But not with a parent. Couldn't do it. Don't take poos in Home Depot toilets. Go watch it and then come back and let me know that you watched it by giving me another quote. That would be cool. Giving me a quote from one of those stand-up specials. Be like, yeah, I know you watched it now. You actually listened to me. That'd be cool. But I know that won't happen. And that's okay. I also know that sometimes I release things not on schedule. It happens. And by that I mean just the podcast. And that's just what happens when you try to get the most up-to-date stuff. And so then you only record the day before. It doesn't give you much time for error. Much time for error? Error? Room for error. I swear, there is a brain that exists in my noggin. It does. Does it work well? No. No, it doesn't. Did I have to get reminded of Baby Geniuses this weekend? Yes. Yes, I did. Baby Bunting? Worst thing in the world. Awful. Hey, why are there so many Baby Geniuses movies? I think I talked about this once, but I'm bringing it up again to everyone. We need to stop. I don't think there's been a new one, like, anytime recently, but I think they shouldn't exist in the public consciousness anymore, or else someone will make a new one. And then we all will have to suffer. We'll all have to suffer with Baby Bunting. With Baby Bunting vocals. Give me Baby Bunting vocals. Oh my god. I hate that thing. I hate that movie so much. And it's funny because I used to really like that movie. But I think once you get old enough to process, and then also being a cinema major, your brain kind of has an inability to keep up with that stuff. It's like, no, I'm good. And you just kind of shut down. And you're like, yeah, this is the end. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. And then you leave. And you have no idea what to do with it. Yeah. Baby Bunting. Baby Geniuses. Land Before Time. Children's movies in general, like, I feel like certain ones, you go back and you're like, this is worse than I remember. It's not good. And that's okay. Some things, and by some things I mean most things, won't hold up with time. Why was Christopher Lloyd in that movie? You played Doc Brown. You played the Doc Brown. And yet, for some reason, you were in Baby Geniuses. And you'd think, oh, well, maybe it's good. Maybe his parts of the movie are good. No, they're not. There's nothing good about it. Same way that there's nothing good about that stroller scene. If you know, you know. If you don't know, I'm not going to haunt you. I'm not going to give you the nightmares. Your dreams are safe in my hands. Who says that? Is that State Farm? Or is it... No, Allstate. You're in good hands. I was like, who's the you're in good hands dude? Is it J.K. Simmons or is it the voice of God? Which is my segue into talking about Lucifer. Hey, y'all. Not like just straight up from the biblical Bible Lucifer. I mean the show. The show that started on the CW and then moved its way over to Netflix and somehow managed to keep a similar budget, which meant poor CGI. Because some of the CGI was not good. It really wasn't, but it was a good show. I'm yawning really hard. That's what happens when you wake up at 7. No, I woke up at 6:30 and then ignored my alarms until 7. Like a good, responsible person. This is being recorded on the day it's going up instead of the day before. It is January 10th and not January 9th. I was doing a bunch of stuff yesterday. I didn't get the chance to record this. I'm behind on some stuff, but I'm getting my schedule back in pace because I need to, because I think all of my classes will kick my butt if I don't get this portion of my schedule in check, you know? And that happens. Excuse me. That happens to everyone. You know, you're like, yeah, I'm good. I can do this. And then you can't, and your schedule falls apart. So once you get it in check, you're like, oh, I'm good. I'm real good. And you say things like that, and you're like, why am I talking like this? What? And you just sort of lose your mind. Of your own volition, mind you. It's not like someone else said, hey, give me your mind. And you were like, okay. And you handed it over. You just kind of lose it. There is no consistency to these podcast episodes. Oh, I know what else I can talk about. Because I'm not that I forgot other things to talk about. I also didn't finish my Lucifer statement. It's a good show. It's on Netflix. I recommend checking it out. When it first started on the CW, so, watching it on actual television, my mother made an interesting note. And it's that as a show, she enjoys the character and liked the show and thought it was funny. But as a Christian, she did not like the depiction of the devil, but she understands that fiction is different from real life. And I went, oh, okay, this is interesting. Because you never think about things like that. You're like, yeah, here's this character based on this supposedly real creature that we've never encountered. But then you get the people who lose their minds, right? They absolutely go insane at the idea of, like, a show having a character like this. And it's like, hey, guys, maybe stop. It's not like they're going. It's like I understand that people are like, it's glorifying hedonism or the devil and his worshippers. And it's like, no, it's not. If you watched it, you'd know what it does. You'd know what's happening, and it's not the things you think it is. He's not going out and telling your kids to be like Lucifer and hail Satan. Like, no. He's going out and he's being like, well, I'd like to be a better person, so this is what I'm going to do. And he helps solve crimes because, of course, he does. Why not? Since we have 10,000 different shows all about solving crimes, and there's a wacky sidekick who is the main character. And I have to say sidekick because they're not the detective, but they're the main character, and there's something interesting about them. There's plenty of those. You've got Lucifer. He is the devil. That's his wackiness. You've got Limitless. Man takes drug that gives it full capacity use of his mind, which of course is very useful for solving crimes. Of course it would be. There was the one with, is it Carl Urban? I think it's Carl Urban, because I think Keith Urban is the singer. Whichever guy played Judge Dredd in Dredd 2012. Great movie. There was the one where he had the android, like, sidekick as his partner for all his crime investigations. I thought that was pretty fun. There was Minority Report. Not the movie, but the show. There was the show. And there's plenty more like it. There's so many shows where it's like, here's main character and wacky sidekick. And then I think Alan Tudyk just had one come out on Sci-Fi where it's Resident Alien, I think is what it's called, where he's an alien who's helping solve crimes because the man he's impersonating was the mortician. Yes. I didn't watch that one, but I kind of want to. There's so many weird ones like that. But people always like to just hear what it is, and then they stop, and they go, all of my judgments are now confirmed. And it's like, no, it's not. None of your judgments are confirmed. Your belief of your judgments is confirmed, but that doesn't mean they're right. It means you think they're right. And everyone should know that if you think you're right, you're probably wrong. If you have facts to back you up, then hey, you're probably right. But if you think you're right without any other piece of knowledge to go with it, hey, you're probably wrong. You're probably wrong. Sorry. I promise not to whisper in the mic again, because last time it upset someone. Then I did it anyways. But also, hey guys, the first episode of What a Book came out last week, and I think it did pretty well. Not many people are actually listening to it, but I think, and when I say I think it did pretty well, I mean I think I felt good about it. I think I personally enjoyed what came of it. That was another episode that was like, hey, this might want to turn up your gain. Might want to be a little louder. Why did my brain shut down while that sentence was being said? because I just found a hole in my jeans. At least I think it's a hole. And that's upsetting. I like these jeans. These are my favorite jeans. Now there's a hole in them, which means I'll have to check it out and find out if it's a hole. And if it's a hole, then I have to go get new jeans. I don't want to go get new jeans. I think these are from Walmart, so I can go to Walmart and just check. But no one wants to do that. I think holes in jeans are the most upsetting things in the world, but I'll come back to the holes in jeans. But yeah, reading through Percy Jackson. If you don't know Percy Jackson, there are 5 books, and it's never been adapted. There is no adaptation. I promise. None. There isn't. Don't. And I'm reading through the book series. I'm going to go through all 5 books, because that makes more sense rather than going through the first book and then suddenly doing something else. That would be dumb. You're already on one story, may as well finish it out. Okay? It's not like the gaming channel where I suddenly don't have the sequel, so then I have to move on, which happens all the time. Duh. No, it's not that. It's something else. No, but no, yeah. I'm reading Percy Jackson. I'm going to read through all the books. Those are books I own. I'm going to read through books I own first. If people want to toss suggestions down to me, sure, that's cool. If it's a book I own, I'll read it. If it's a book I don't own, so sorry. But it's got to be a book, and it doesn't have to be appropriate. But don't send me like smut. Don't do that, please. Thanks. Yeah. Man, I'm really upset about this hole now. I really like these jeans, and I know exactly why this hole's probably here. And it just plays into the idea of I'm going to be championing losing weight this year. I'm going to be the king of it. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to exercise more. I did some light exercising before last semester, but then last semester got so hectic I didn't really have the time to do all the stuff I did. Like I would be here for like an hour in my room, and I would do like push-ups, sit-ups, squats, like arm exercises, all that jazz. And I just couldn't do it last semester. And because of that, and I can already see what is caused because of that, and looking at this hole in my jeans, I know exactly that was also a result of it. And I don't like that feeling. I'm not like going to die or anything, right? I know that. And I know that on my own, my body is kind of okay. But also, I've seen what I can do when I get fit. I've seen how hot I can look when I put on a suit when I'm fit. So, I'm going to go get fit. Because you know what? Hey, I love suits. Okay? And I love being hot. There was a year where I was truly at the peak hotness. Unhealthily, though. It wasn't achieved in a healthy way. But this time, it will be achieved in a healthy way. Because, I want to be hot. I want to be so hot that people are like, whoa, what do you look like? Sorry, I whispered again. What do you look like? How hot are you? And I won't ever tell. You'll have to be my friend to find out. And the internet people will not be my friends. Unless it's an internet person that knows one of my friends. Because then they might become my friend. Who knows? Anyways, that's where I'm going to leave the podcast off. Because there's been so much here. Please leave me comments or messages in my social medias. Telling me other things you want to hear me talk about. I love suggestions. I love talking about things that people mention to me. Or that people want to hear about. You know? I still think Captain Dildo was the funniest thing I got to talk about because someone mentioned it to me and I was like, I'm going to talk about this in the podcast. And they were like, go for it. So yeah, do that. If you enjoyed this podcast, let me know. If you didn't, tell me why. I'm always hopeful for improvement. You know, I was told that it was a little too quiet, so I turned up the gain. You know, don't be rude about it. As long as you're respectful, I'll be like understanding or something. Or something. That's not grammar. But yeah, you know, back at college, spring semester started. It's kind of insane to think about. I'm pretty certain my credits and whatnot say I'm a junior, even though everyone else would be like, you've only been here for 2 years. And I'm like, yes, I came with that many credits. I've only got a full year left. I was looking at my grades for last semester because I thought I failed a class. Turns out I got all A's. How? Couldn't tell you. I don't know. I really thought I failed. I was like, oh, yeah, no, I did poorly. No, I didn't. I passed, and now I'm here for another semester, and I'm continuing on. I'm going to keep on chugging, because once I get my degree, then I can go run off to whatever state I want to and live in, and maybe I end up living in my car for a bit, but I will eventually make my way. That was a terrible laugh, and I'm so sorry you heard it, but thanks again. I've been Matthew. Make sure to check out everything else that I do. There's a link down in the description. And if you click that, you'll find my gaming channel, where I post video games daily. You'll find my Twitch channel, where I stream twice a week, because I can't handle any more than that, because I'm in school. You'll also find my social medias. I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram. That is it. That is all I have. I don't have anything else for anything. So thank you guys once more. And I'll see all of you for What a Book next week.